Good morning. We'll call the meeting to order. Council is conducting this meeting in person and via conference call in accordance with the Municipal Government Act, Section 199. Council chambers is open for public attendance. However, councillors and members of the public may join meetings remotely using our current teleconference process. If you have submitted a comment request, the chair will call on you at the appropriate time. The chair may also ask for comments and concerns from the public relating to a particular topic, and at this time, phone lines will be unmuted. If you would like to speak, please state your name. We ask that only one member of the public speak at a time. All persons will be allotted 10 minutes to speak as per our procedural bylaw. We ask that if the meeting recesses, that any callers hang up and call back in as the meeting reconvenes. This helps with call quality. Please note this meeting is being recorded and may be uploaded to our website and/or social media. To eliminate background noise, please mute your phone during the meeting. We also ask all attendees to mute their devices to reduce disruptions to meetings. Everyone has a right to be present at council meetings and council committee meetings. Any attendees that are considered disruptive to the progression of this meeting may be removed at the discretion of the chair as per the MGA Section 198. We thank you for your cooperation and understanding. Because we have a councillor participating remotely, we will conduct a roll call at the beginning of the meeting. Reeve Link is present. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Here in person.
Councillor Laprise.
I'm here.
Councillor Bigger has sent her regrets that she can't be here this morning. Councillor Eichert.
Present.
Councillor Kester.
Present.
And I believe Councillor Laursen also sent his regrets and isn't able to join us this morning. Due to the hybrid nature of today's meeting, we will modify our voting procedure. We'll vote by exception. I'll call for any councillor who is opposed to the motion to indicate so verbally. For any motions with expressed opposition, we will conduct a roll call vote. We have an agenda before us. Does anybody have any additions or changes?
Good morning, Reeve Link. Brian from Administration. Administration has three potential additions to the agenda today. The first one would be correspondence related to the RCMP that was received on December 20th. And that was about the 2022 Fall RMA Convention meeting response. We're hoping to add that under 5.1 under correspondence. The second item is the 2023 pay grid and organizational chart amendments. And we propose that we add those under section 4.1.4. If there is discussion that council thinks that or would like to have, then I would suggest moving that into a closed session. And the last item is just amendments to the provincial funding stream for non-residential infrastructure. There were some edits that were provided to administration. So administration went forward and made those edits in green and circulated a copy to council, both a paper copy and electronic. And those are administration's additions. Thank you.
Any agenda? Did you have an opportunity to review the pay grid and organizational chart amendments? And does anybody feel that they would prefer to discuss that? We could, if so, we could put it under agenda item 6. If not, we could put it under agenda 4. So we start with 4.14, and if there's discussion necessary, we could move it into a closed session. I'm seeing lots of heads nodding. Councillor Kester, are you comfortable with placing that on the agenda under 4.14, and we can move into a closed session if necessary?
Yes, I'm comfortable with that. And with those amendments, I'll move the agenda presented.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor Kester. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We had the minutes from the regular council meeting, December 20th, 2022. Did anybody notice any errors or omissions?
I'll move the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We also had the minutes from the public hearing on December 20th, 2022. Any errors or omissions?
I'll move the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Deputy Reeve Clausen. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We have a public hearing for Bylaw 2022-32. I move that the process for the Wheatland County Council meeting as it pertains to the scheduled public hearing will be as follows. Public hearing, first reading if required, then consideration for further readings of the bylaw for those public hearings that have been closed. I further move that the above process will take place with the absence of resolutions to go into and out of council before and after each public hearing. Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. I'll call the public hearing to order. Welcome, everybody. Does any member of the public have an objection to any councillor sitting on council for the public hearing? And can administration please verify that notice of the public hearing was circulated in accordance with the MGA?
Through the chair, yes, we can.
Thank you. And were there any written submissions?
Through the chair, no, there were not.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Stefan Kuntz presenting on behalf of administration. So this is the public hearing and second and third reading consideration for Bylaw 2022-32, which proposes to redesignate the subject lands from Industrial General District to Commercial Highway District. The lands are located approximately 2.5 miles to the west of the hamlet of Carsland. This is southwest of Highway 24, which is also the intersection of Township Road 222 and Range Road 263. So subject lands are 13.74 acres in size, and as mentioned, they are the proposal is to redesignate them from Industrial General District to Commercial Highway District. The lands are part of a larger overall development with 3 condominium units and a common property. So the common property is for the servicing and stormwater infrastructure. And then the 3 units, Unit 1 is located to the northwest of the lands. That's Commercial Highway District currently, and it's intended to house a service station for a truck stop. Unit 3, which is located to the south, that's Industrial General and intended to house a RV storage facility. So the subject lands themselves, that's Unit 2. It was intended to have ancillary uses for the truck stop, namely a truck wash and a parking area for the semi-trucks. As the developer has actually started to look where the appropriate area to construct these buildings are, they actually straddle the property lines between Units 1 and 2. So the uses proposed in Lot 2, that can still be accommodated within the Commercial Highway District. So the intent is to consolidate Units 1 and 2 as a commercial highway lot, and then have the truck stop essentially operate on that one site. In terms of policy, subject lands are located within the Junction Corner Area Concept Plan, which is the original policy for this, essentially provided for the development as I just described. The lands are also located within the Goldfinch Industrial Area Structure Plan, which was adopted after the Area Concept Plan. So again, it reflects essentially what's been proposed. The one item with the Area Structure Plan, some can be a little bit sticky in terms of amendments, but in this case, Section 2.5 allows minor changes to proceed without an amendment to the ASP, as long as the intent of the ASP is still achieved, which in this case, it certainly is. So we are recommending option 1. That concludes my presentation, but I'll be happy to take any questions should you have any. Thank you.
Any questions? Does the applicant wish to speak? Are there any persons with concerns or opposed to the application who would like to speak? Are there any persons in support of the application who would like to speak? Does administration have any final comments?
Through the chair, no further comments.
I'd like to thank the applicant, and we can close the public hearing for Bylaw 2022-32. Council's wishes.
I'll move that council move second reading of land use bylaw number 2016-01 to redesignate Unit 2, condominium plan 2011346 within Northeast 42226 west of the 4th from Industrial General District to Commercial Highway District as shown in the attached Schedule A.
Councillor Eichert has moved second reading. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried.
I'll move third reading and what Tom said.
Third reading is presented. Any questions or discussion? Is any counselor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 3.1. My report starts on page 41. I do want to highlight the results from the Strathmore seed cleaning plant. It was a challenging year, definitely with the drought and the conditions and availability of seed, but there were still very good results. Also want to highlight the CP holiday train. A huge thanks to CP for bringing the concert to Wheatland County and to the Gleason community, and a thank you to everybody who was instrumental in making the event happen. We had a really good turnout. I've been meaning to touch base with CP. They usually try and estimate attendance, but I haven't heard that yet. But there was definitely hundreds of people in the audience, if not maybe around one person did say they estimated around 1,000. A little bit smaller than our first couple of years, but still a really good turnout, and the spirit at the entire administration. The event as well, and we also had several businesses. I hope that we captured all of them. If anybody knows of anybody that we missed, please do let us know. But really good, strong support from the business community as well as from the Gleason and Community, or Gleason and District Community Association, the Gleason Lions Club. We had really good community support as well. I think those are the main things I wanted to highlight. I will move that my report be accepted as presented, and I'm happy to answer. Is any counselor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 3.2, Deputy Reeves' report.
Thank you. My report is on page 46 in the agenda. Just to highlight Alberta Care. It's the first time I've been able to actually attend one of their regional meetings. Learned a lot. Dave McKenna is a representative from Alberta Environment and was basically discussing the producer responsibility that's coming out for recycling. And there may be some kind of, the forecast might be that there'd be some monies probably coming for collection points within Alberta that we currently run, because it would make sense instead of the producers trying to duplicate that service that the municipalities already do. But that's not in stone or anything like that, so there'd be some changes coming. And there was being that it's a recycling group, there was also a huge recognition of the fact for energy from waste facility needed within Alberta for when they separate some of this product, instead of that separation going to a landfill, would be a good source of fuel. So, everything else, the executive meetings would say, well, it's pretty much all on camera. I can't really say anything about that. So, and, any questions? If not, I will move my report as presented.
Any questions for Deputy Reeve Clausen?
Yeah, I'm just on the this care program. Do they give an estimate of what percentage of the recycled plastic is actually recycled as opposed to just doesn't go straight into land? It's just a question.
There was discussion on, I can't exactly recall how much. There is a definite recognition that some of the recycling within Alberta, not necessarily the plastic, but the cardboard for sure, is not successful right now. I think we all know that a lot of it ends up in places it probably shouldn't. And hopefully the markets will change. That's why the need for an energy from waste facility, if it's collected, we can at least get something out of it, instead of shipping it all over the world and things like that. So there's definitely some issues in recycling because of the countries that used to take it don't anymore. So, and that's just something that I don't think is going to change either. So we're going to either have to, but I think this producer responsibility, that the intent of that is to provide a different way of recycling the recycling, if that makes sense. So But of course, that all takes money, and I think Alberta is the last province to join that in Canada. So there's been successful runs run in Ontario and stuff for a long time. So we're behind the 8 ball, but we've also learned a lot from other people's mistakes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Deputy Reeve Clausen? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 3.3, Division 1 report.
Thank you. My report is on page 47 of the package. I have quite a lot going on right now, actually. So the SWAT group, which is the Strathmore Wheatland Addictions team, is rebranding. So we, want to get away from the acronym of SWAT because it's not very good when you're thinking about it. Anyway, so we have decided on Addictions Resource Coalition of Strathmore and Wheatland. So it'll be ARC, which has more of a nicer connotation in terms of acronyms. So we'll be rolling that out soon. And thank you to Town of Strathmore's marketing department for helping us with that. And they're really, they've been very involved there. So that's appreciated. The Chamber of Commerce, of course, the BEA awards are coming up at the end of the month. So thank you to anybody who has nominated Wheatland County businesses for awards. There's quite a few in there now, so that's excellent. An evening in Paris is the theme, so it'll be, I think it's going to be really fun. What can I say? Wheatland Housing Management Body, we had a presentation from Derek Weiss, who is the consultant looking at the finances for the potential lodge. And we're getting closer to what we are going to present to the councils, all of the councils. I think we have a meeting coming up on the 17th for that purpose. So instead of having a Wheatland Regional Partnership meeting, we're going to have a Wheatland Housing Management Board meeting at the Town of Strathmore Town Hall. And so it'll be open for all of councils and and the CIO, I believe, to come. So those invitations will be coming out shortly. So that is good news to start moving forward and making some decisions and figuring out what everybody's appetite is there. So if there's anything else I wanted to. Nope, that's it. So I'll move my report as presented.
Any questions for Councillor Laprise?
Thanks. Just with this meeting coming up, do we know if it's an evening meeting or a daytime meeting?
I do believe it's going to be an evening meeting.
Will there be an information package sent out before so we can digest some of it?
Yes, I think there should be. Yes.
Thank
Yep. Yes.
Did you say the date for that meeting, or that's to be determined?
It's January 17th. It's
17th.
Tuesday. Okay. So as far as I know, I'm intending to go to the AS there or en route to there. So I will see if they're going to have a Zoom option so that I can attend that way, but otherwise.
There is a Zoom option.
There will be. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good.
I just opened up the email.
Okay.
The Zoom link.
I saw the email. I haven't opened it yet, but yeah. Okay. That's good news. Okay. So that's how I'll be there.
Excellent. Any other questions?
Just a comment. I mean, it's a week's notice. It'd be better to have maybe a month, considering like we have 2 councillors that are probably going to ASB. We could have all been there, to be honest, or en route. So a little bit more notice would be gratefully appreciated. Not saying it's just no judgment on who, what, where, but I'm sure there's a lot of information there to digest.
So the province has some funding available. There's certain deadlines. There's a deadline that's already passed, and January. Well, maybe it's today. Then there's the next one is April, early April, I think.
Yes.
So I think that's why it's kind of, we're pushing to get this out and, then once you have the presentation, then of course there's going to be deliberations. And so we need to know whether we're, going forward to the province to ask for money or not at that point. So that's why there's little lead time. But I appreciate what you're saying.
Sorry, so are we expected to make a decision or something at this meeting?
No,
Okay.
no. This is information only. Yeah.
Okay. But there'll probably be something coming back to councils, each individual council.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions for Councillor Laprise? Councillor Laprise has moved her report. Does any councillor object? Motion is carried. We'll move to 3.4. Councillor Bigger's report is included in the package. If somebody were prepared to move to accept it as information.
I'll move that.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 3.5, Division 4 Councillor Report.
Yeah, my report is on the server. I think everything's been covered in that I attended this month or last month has been covered. So I will move my report.
Any questions for Councillor Eichert? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. Move to agenda item 3.51, upgrading the thermal ratings of existing community halls.
I brought this forward on the agenda because I'm familiar with Cheadle and Lyalta. The buildings are, I believe Cheadle was built in 1972, 73, somewhere in there. Cinder block construction. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the construction of the building. Problem is they are just in cold weather, hot weather, they're just horrible. The maintenance on them to try to maintain any kind of heating or cooling in the buildings is just about impossible. The community group has done a lot of work on this, and they've managed to get me a quote so to retrofit Cheadle, put 4 inches of insulation, which is approximately R20, on the outside of the building, upgrade the ceilings to current standards, and then cover the buildings in metal, which would probably add 40 years of life to these buildings. Is probably going to, in the case of Cheadle, is probably going to be about $200,000, which is, I mean, the people in the community are willing to do the fundraising and all that kind of stuff, but in order to raise $200,000, that's a 10-year project. So I know that Lyalta is in a similar situation. It won't be as expensive because Lyalta put a new roof on their building. So that'd be, Lyalta would probably about 30% less money than that because the metal roof is already done. So I'm just wondering, I'm thinking I'd like to direct administration to look at all the buildings in the county, that all the community buildings in the county, and then come up with some sort of a plan, like if we put $100,000 into the budget every year, and then the community center can grab from that pool there to do the retrofits. But I not doing anything just doesn't make any sense, because there's nothing wrong with these buildings. They were built as cost effectively as you could build them back in the day, and when the price of natural gas and all that kind of stuff was next to nothing. Price of electricity was next to nothing. It wasn't that big of a deal. But now with the prices and since with the county is responsible, like through curb funding or for an awful lot of the operational costs. So I just think it just makes sense. So I'm just looking for some input from council.
I'd be interested to see that, but I'd also like to see the sort of return on investment from it. So what would be your savings in the utility costs over time, so that you could see how long that would pay off, kind of thing. Yeah, I'd be interested in that.
For myself, yes, I
I
definitely.
don't know.
Councillor Kester, please go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know about current programs, but in the past there was programs to upgrade installations. I know at the lodge we took advantage of multiple terms to get the insulation up to snuff in there. So yeah, check out on the current programs and maybe the future of any. I don't know where you would look. I'm not that expert, but there is usually programs out there to help.
Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I think it's a good idea to look out what's out there, what's the current levels are at, and what maybe the communities are looking at doing. I think it's 5,000 a year roughly we're putting into operations for these halls, each one basically through the grants. So, and probably most of that's going to utilities. And those buildings, whether somebody's using them or not, are just eating up money. And the good thing I think is most community halls don't have a lot of windows in them that I've been in. So that's a big upgrade that doesn't really need to be. It's mostly just insulation. So I think it's utility costs are only going to go higher. I think that's a prediction everywhere. So, and maybe there are some grants out there, or maybe that's something we could lobby for. I'm sure we're not the only ones in Alberta that are probably looking at the same thing. It's nice to have these community halls. We need them for, shelters and things like that as well. So they're multi-use facilities and they're very important to have. So I think we need to keep them going. So I'd support anything like that. Thank you.
Well, then I'll make a motion that we direct administration to look into, number one, the buildings that would require upgrading. If there's any grants like like FCM and all that kind of stuff, if there's opportunities and that kind of stuff, and then suggestions from administration on how to move forward on how do we fund this? Like, what's the proper way to fund this? So
There's a motion on the floor. Would you accept a friendly amendment just to integrate Councillor Laprisa's idea just on some estimates of
for sure, yes,
return on investment or
yes,
timeframes for payback on capital cost?
yes, I would do that. Yes, you betcha.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. Thanks for bringing this forward. I agree. Our community halls and community centers are integral to each of our communities, and I think this is a great idea. So thank you for bringing that forward. We'll move to agenda item 3.6, Division 6 Councillor Report.
Yeah, my report's on the server. If there's any questions, please ask, and otherwise I'll move it as information.
Any questions for Councillor Kester? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We have Councillor Larson's report on page 52. If council could move to accept the report as information.
So move.
Councillor Eichert has moved. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.1. 4.11, CIO Report.
Good morning, Council. On page 53 of your agenda package is the CIO report for the month of December. Council resolution tracker starts on page 55. And just to note, with the amendment of the organizational chart, economic development will be reporting to the CIO effective January 1st. If there's any questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions for CIO Henderson?
Just looking on CM 2020-12-2033, which has to do with WRC for agreements. Before the next meeting, if nothing's not done, just let me know what needs to be. If I need to push, or I can find out if there's a hold up there.
Which page are you on, Deputy Reeve Clausen?
Page 55.
And can you just repeat the resolution number?
2020-12-33. It looks like we received a final draft in November 22. I'm just trying to figure out if it's us or them.
I can speak to that through the Reeve. Yeah, we have been working with the WRC on that agreement for some time. Between the county administration and WRC, we kind of felt we got to a fairly final version of it in terms of what would be amenable to the county and the WRC. We did send that to for legal review, and we have those comments back recently, and we're just reviewing those now. And then we'll review those with WRC administration, and then it'll go to the board for approval in the near future.
Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to see where it was at.
Any other questions for CAO Henderson? If not, there's 2 recommended resolutions on page 53.
I'll move that council accept the December 2022 Chief Administrative Officer report as information.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried.
I'll move that council accept the January 10th, 2023 council resolution tracker as information.
Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 4.12, Drumheller RCMP 2023 Spring RMA Convention Meeting Invitation.
Yes, good morning, Council. On page 61 of your agenda package is just an RFD outlining just some correspondence we received from the staff sergeant from Drumheller RCMP. So there was a follow-up just about the meeting that council had in the spring or in the fall of 2022, and then just I guess an ask if council will be requesting a meeting with the RCMP at the spring of 2023. So if council does wish to request a meeting, we're asking for some points of discussion. If council is not requesting a meeting with the RCMP, I've got a resolution there for council just to direct us to mention that they will not be looking for a meeting with the RCMP at the spring RMA. And council did have a meeting in the fall as well, so that's just all information for council. If there's any questions or comments, please let me know. Thank you.
What's everybody's thoughts?
Staff Sergeant Harms going to be at the RMA?
You know what? That I don't know. I have not asked. Definitely inquire if he will be there.
I'd far sooner meet him at a meet him after, just to meet him as a personal kind of thing, as opposed to, so I could put a name to a face, as opposed to a panel of where everybody just going to tell you the answers they think you want to hear. So if he's going to be there, if you could find out if he's going to be there, then I could at least try to track him down and meet up with him in a political sort of situation, just as a friendly kind of.
And just to note, we did receive some correspondence from Staff Sergeant Harms about just some open houses that they're hosting in and around. I think one could be in the county. It is kind of up in that. We posted on social media. I admittedly can't remember if I forwarded that one onto council. We have posted on social media though. And I believe our intention is to invite Staff Sergeant Harms here as well, just for a presentation to council. Administration does try to invite all the staff sergeants so council can meet them, put faces to names and stuff like that too. So it doesn't have to be at the RMA convention.
Right. Thank you.
For myself, after the last meeting, I don't think I need to talk to the RCMP at the spring convention. I don't even know if I'll be attending, to be honest. But this looks like if we were to attend, then Drumheller would probably show up, is how I read between the lines here. But I mean, if they're coming to talk to us like they usually do, I'm fine with that too. Thanks.
For me, I'd rather meet them here, just like everybody's kind of sounds like they're saying. I don't know that we have any, kind of top of mind topics to bring to the RCMP organization at that level. That's just my opinion at this point, given that we've talked to them in the fall.
Yeah, and I like the idea as well of meeting locally, and it would be nice. I understand we have a new detachment commander in the Gleason detachment as well. So if administration might possibly be able to invite each of the, I recognize we have Staff Sergeant Wilgosh coming in this morning, but the other detachment commanders, I think we've had some changes in several of the detachments that serve Wheatland County. So it would be nice just for council to meet each of those commanders, and if we could facilitate that. Sometimes it's nice having everybody here at the same time. If that's not possible, if we could just stagger invitations, I think it would be great to make those connections. Councillor Eichert, I felt like a motion was coming.
Yes. I'll move that council direct administration to respond to Staff Sergeant Robert Harms and advise that council will not be requesting a meeting with the RCMP at the 2023 Spring RMA.
Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.13, provincial funding stream for non-residential infrastructure, RMA Resolution.
Yes, good morning, Council. So on page 65 of your agenda package is a resolution that administration has prepared on behalf of council based on the previous council motion CM 2022-1247. So after this was circulated, it was taken to the Board of Directors, our CRMA meeting that occurred on January 6th in Nehill County. There was a few suggested edits that administration's incorporated into the resolution. So the edits to the resolution are provided in green, and council was provided a paper copy this morning, and also provided an electronic copy this morning as well. So any changes or any additions were in green. There were no deletions from it. There were 2 points from Reeves from some of the other rural municipalities in District 2 were to incorporate industrial economic development and also incorporate the agricultural sector in here as well. And then there's a paragraph added in as well about a report from January 2018 regarding the population of rural Alberta, the investment and the GDP. And that paragraph is in green in the member background. If there are any comments or questions, please let me know. Thank you.
Any questions or discussion from council?
I thought the intent of it is awesome. I fully support it. You know me, I'm
Bring it. We want to hear it.
the second paragraph in the member background section. So the end of the first sentence says aligns with provincial government's platform of job creation and diversification of the economy. And then the last sentence says this aligns with the provincial government's goal of promoting economic development and diversification. So I just felt that was a repetitive. That's the only comment I had. Sorry.
The only comment? That's like high praise.
Oh, it is. Absolutely. Well written.
Yeah, that's good feedback. There's a little bit of redundancy there. So perhaps would anyone object if we just struck the last sentence? Although I like the help to create a more resilient and robust economy. What if we just truncated a bit this alignment? Yeah, how do we feel about that? Okay. I like that. This was received very well at the district directors meeting on Friday. Strong support, and the Reeve of Stettler County has indicated that he would take it back to his council to consider seconding the motion. And so we would be looking for a motion to approve the resolution as amended with the amendment presented by Councillor Laprise to be put forward to Rocky View County for consideration at our South Central District meeting in Acadia. I just have one request for council. The timing of this is, the deadline is actually today, so we'll need to do it promptly. But I'm wondering if council would allow the liberty for me to confirm the statistics in that one green paragraph in the member background. I think the RMA president, Paul McLaughlin, does reference 15% of the rural population, and I believe he's drawing that from the most recent census data. And then CIO Henderson had indicated through conversation that 2018 report is excellent, but it is a little bit dated in terms of data. And so if President McLaughlin has more current statistics, is council comfortable with administration just updating that one paragraph? The intent and the substance wouldn't change. It just might be slightly more updated statistics.
I support that.
And it may be that there are not like the fulsome statistics for all of that, but we could update what we can. So, for a motion to approve the resolution to be taken forward to the district meeting, and then if approved, if endorsed there, to the provincial resolution session.
I'll also move. Is that good enough? Or do you want me to read
Say
it?
amended motion.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a motion on page 65, a recommended motion, and we could just add the word amended submission.
Okay, just a second. All right, so I move that council approve the submission of the Wheatland County Resolution Provincial Funding Stream for Non-Residential Infrastructure as amended to the 2023 Central Rural Municipalities of Alberta CRMA District 2 General Meeting for endorsement consideration, and further to the provincial, to the RMA following that.
Perfect. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. I just want to thank our team for how quickly this resolution was put together and the quality of it. It was definitely impressive and was appreciated by our colleagues across the district as well. Thank you.
Would council also consider putting a motion forward, unless you wouldn't think it's necessary, to direct administration to forward this resolution onto other District 2 members for potential their council consideration, something along those lines, unless council just wants administration to forward it. Whatever is the will of council, administration will forward it regardless, because we need a seconder, but might be just good procedurally to get that in kind of done.
Agreed. Thank you.
So I can move that the resolution be forwarded to the CMR members, councils for their consideration. Yeah.
To consider
seconding
at the district meeting.
She said.
Perfect. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 4.21, Corporate and Financial Services Report.
There was an addition.
I apologize. Yes, I even have it right here. We will move to 4.1 for 2023 pay grid and organizational chart amendments.
Yes, council. So yesterday we did circulate just amendments to the org chart and pay grid. So there was just some amendments. If council does understand the changes fully, there were just 2 deletions to the organizational chart for 2 vacant positions. If council does want to discuss it, council can choose to move into closed session. If council just wants to approve the amendments as presented, probably just an open, you can just make a resolution now. Thank you.
Council's wishes.
I move that council approve the changes to HR policy 6.4.1, organizational chart, and HR policy 6.2.1, pay structure, pay grid, to remove 2 positions off the organizational chart and pay grid.
Councillor Kester has moved. Are there any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. Now we will move to 4.21, Corporate and Financial Services Report. And good morning.
Good morning, Council. Tracy from Corporate and Financial Services team. I also have Corey, our Manager of IT, and Joel from Finance, if you have any specific questions related to those two areas. So in the assessment department in December, we had a preliminary review of the market analysis affecting residential assessment class, and it looks to be an estimated 2% to 5%, depending on the region in the county, and that is from 2021, and now it's depending on July 1st of 2022. Certainly compared to some areas in Calgary, that's much better. Under financial services, the interim audit was started with MNP, compiled multiple grant applications. There was renewed 62 dog licenses following a recent mail-out notification. And the January tip installment for enrollment was $853,000. And we completed a tax auction on December 8th. There was no members of public, just like last year as well. Under information services, the scanning of employee files is complete. That was completed in December. Under GIS, we completed the 2022 gravel hull map, and also the new Esri internal web map is now live and available, and the public web map replacement is being worked on. Tutorials are being made to make this user-friendly for everybody, and both maps will be available in January. And under asset management, we submitted the county's final report for the grant that we applied for. And so that should be completed soon, and we should have a response soon. And then GIS and asset management worked together just to see what GIS data we needed in the asset management software. And that completes the highlights for December of 2022. Any questions?
I have a quick question about the tax auction. So just because I'm just curious about how we never get any response from this. Do you think it might have anything to do with how we advertise it by roll number? Maybe people don't really know where these roll numbers are. Is there a way of advertising more specifically that there are so many lots in so many, whatever hamlet or something like that, so that people are more aware? And
I think we could look at that. That's a good suggestion. I can make note of that for next year and put the address. Of course, I always think of FOIP, but I think that would be fine. Yeah.
Or just a general idea, just so that people could then maybe contact you to see, oh, it's in Cluny. Well, let's look and see what's there.
Yeah, for sure.
Provide more information or something like that. It's a shame that we never get any response. It would be nice to sell some of these properties.
Yeah, my understanding is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joel took care of the auction this year. They are sold at what they are worth as far as taxes and everything like that. Where in possibly the States that doesn't happen. They're sold for whatever the bid is, but it's different here.
Right. Okay.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
In that same line of thought, so if they don't sell, do they become our responsibility to look after? Pretty sure that's.
Yeah, this tax auction is interesting to say the least. So of the 7 years I've been here, I think I heard one time one person came, but they had a job interview prior, so they just come in to see what was going on. So what occurs on an annual basis is that all properties are identified, and an auction, the market value must be established, and council sets the market value by council resolution for these properties to sell. So unfortunately, I was actually just looking up the MGA exactly what that process is. So once a property goes to tax auction and it isn't bid on or sold at auction, which it most likely won't, because if it's market value, why not just wait until you have some time to kind of do it with a realtor? But the county does have an opportunity to take over the title of that property. The county always considers if they should take over that property. So if there are contaminants on that property, the county just might choose not to take that one over. And we do have a couple instances of that. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. And what I might do is I might actually get, we might put together a package administration and just kind of show the actual process of it and where we might think that improvements could be made. Because there are other jurisdictions, even within Canada, that don't follow these market value rules, which probably would lead to the sale of more properties. I would imagine anyway. So what we might do is to kind of take this back. The next auction would be in December, and maybe in this before summer, we'll bring something back to council for consideration on maybe how to make this process a little bit better to get some more properties out there.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, because I know historically in the early 1900s, that's how a lot of farms acquired a lot of land around here, was guys would just go and pay the taxes and take over land. I mean, it's been very popular in the past, and maybe there's an opportunity to have a realtor or something help, like because people just don't know, and the problem will stay there, and then when it's a maintenance problem, then they come back to us and it's going to cost us money, so to look after it. So maybe there's something. That's a great idea to bring it back. Thank you.
Good discussion. Perhaps just a motion directing administration to prepare a report regarding the tax auction process and to bring that back for council consideration.
Also move.
Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. If there's no further questions or discussion for corporate and financial services, a motion to accept the report as information.
Also move.
Councillor Priest has moved. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We will move to 4.22, the CBDIP.
Good morning again. We are asking for a resolution from council to direct administration to write off CFIP for July to December 2022 in the amount of $4,500 for the Strathmore Handy Bus. And this is basically a housekeeping item.
Council's wishes.
I'll move the council to direct administration to write off the commercial vehicle inspection program invoice for July to December 2022 in the amount of $4,500 for the Strathmore Handy Bus and provide this service as in kind.
Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed?
Yeah, no, and before the vote, I'm just a question on Wheatland Housing Management Board has a bus. Does that has to be inspected every year? So do we do that? Like, is that also an in-kind thing, or do we make a recommendation for, like?
Through the chair, we just do the handy bus. I'm not sure who the WHMB does their services through.
Well, theoretically, we should make a motion that should direct the housing board to approach the county, because this is
Or to offer to the housing board.
yeah, well, because this is an expensive thing, right? Like I if it has to be done yearly, twice a year. So so a bus would be anything that transports, like. Yeah,
Because
so-
the handy buses are like a van. So that's, it's
Yeah,
a bus only because it is public transportation.
but ours is bigger than that.
So yes, ours definitely would be.
So we
the
should,
the
so maybe
housing board.
So we have a motion on the floor to write off the handy bus ones. We'll vote on that first, but then I think it would be nice and probably effective if we have capacity within our administration. We could contemplate a second motion after this one is voted voted on. Any further discussion on the handy bus write-off motion? I think, did we have a motion? I'm sorry, remind me. Yes, thank you. Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. Perhaps a motion,
Well, maybe we should at the Wheatland House, like on the board, should bring this forward. There's a meeting we could.
yeah, I think we could like direct
So
the
just
Wheatland
suggest.
Housing Management Body Board
I
members
think that would save
to
us
provide
some
an
time.
offer to the housing board to provide the CVIP inspections if the board so chooses.
Mhm.
If somebody wants to move that.
Oh, do we need a motion for that?
I think it would be good just to direct just because we're utilizing Wheatland County sort of resources or capacity.
They might not want to use our
It's
service.
just to offer,
Okay,
just to direct the board members to present the offer and then you can bring that back.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Yeah, it's a great idea. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to 4.31. Good morning.
Good morning, Council. Sherry Bars here with Community Development Services to provide the December 2022 department update found on page 80 of the agenda. I just would like to highlight a few of the activities within the department that occurred last month. I'd start with community services, which was busy with various community groups. Some of the projects that they were working with and community group was the Rosebud Community Enhancement Society to develop a community tree planting and replacement plan. The Lakes of Muirfield Homeowners Association to define recreation needs for the community, and the Speargrass Community Association to install playground equipment and plant trees within the Speargrass Park. Within fire and emergency services, they were conducting training for new recruits. They had 18 recruits complete their training program. Training was rotated throughout all eight fire halls so that the recruits were familiar with the entire county. And they're going to conduct a live exercise in Vulcan this spring with the recruits. And in protective services, the peace officers were out quite often within the community, responding to calls, complaints, and performing general and rural patrol. And those patrols included community controls and targeted patrols that were resulted from multiple complaints within a specific location or area. And that concludes questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Community and Development Services? If there's no questions, a motion to accept the report for information.
So move.
Deputy Reeve Clausen has moved. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. And just on behalf of council, I want to congratulate the 18 new recruits that have completed their training and thank everyone in the department that contributed to that. I think it's really exciting that we have that many new firefighters and have been hearing really good things about the training and the enthusiasm for our fire department. So please pass along thanks on behalf of council, we departments and the men and women who serve on those departments. So thank you. With that, we will move to 4.41, Transportation and Agriculture Report.
Good morning, Council. Brad Bullock from Administration presenting the December Transportation and Agriculture Department report. Under capital projects, the bridge file 07925. So this is on Township Road 262 between Range Road 233 and 234. That project was delayed slightly because of the weather conditions at the end of December. It is now complete, and the finishing work will be completed in the spring, seeding and topsoil and etc. We also did receive, this is not in the report, but just an update for council, we did receive the environmental approvals for another bridge file, Range Road 250, just north of Township Road 250. And that work is commenced for that bridge culvert replacement. The Shaw Broadband project is underway. Our project management team is supporting our information services team on that. We have reviewed some drawings from Shaw and returned those to them for that project. And also on the Carsland Fire Hall, we were just working with the engineering company just to close out final documentation on that project. Moving on to page 87 with operations, just a note I think everybody's aware of. With the persistent winds throughout the county and the heavy snowfall, our operations team was working hard to keep up with the snow. There was some delays in getting the roads cleared, which we did send notifications out to the community on our social media outlets. That has settled down now. We've got a little bit warmer weather and the snow's hardened a bit, and so we're not seeing as much snow, blowing snow, as well as also the falling snow. Crews are working now to just kind of do some various cleanup around the county to prepare for potentially the next snow event, so that we can get some of those large drifts out of the way. The surfacing crew will begin brushing in January in between the plowing operations, so they'll focus on areas where there are sightline issues on the roads and then move to other locations that have been highlighted through citizen requests. On the utilities, we've had several property owners and ratepayers volunteer to join the program in Muirfield and Speargrass. This is something that Alberta Environment requires. And the team needed a few more sampling locations, and so we're grateful for the community members that volunteered to do that, so that we can test the sample, test the water. Under facilities, we have in the last few months had an increase in rate of break-ins to the yard. So we have upped our security on that. We also did get a security specialist come in and review the yard, and they provided a report to us with some recommendations. So administration right now is reviewing that report. And once we've had a chance to go through that, there will likely be some yard upgrades, security upgrades to the yard that will be recommended to council, and we'll bring that to council at a future date. On the hamlets, the team did help support the holiday train stop in Gleason by moving snow and setting up barricades. My understanding, I wasn't able to attend, but that was a good event, and they were able to help with that, get that set up. Also, fire hydrant access hookups were provided to the Muirfield HOA to flood their outdoor rink. The technical services report. So this team has changed a little bit, just for council's information, with moving the Hamlets team over to the operations team. This allows the technical services team to focus more on projects and technical support, both for the county overall and also for the other departments. And so we'll see a little bit change in the reporting for that team. But the Muirfield IMP connected through this team was completed in November 24th, 2022, which concludes that project. So a municipal infrastructure plan for the community. And this is something we'll kind of go through to the various communities through the years, probably hit them every 5 or 6 years and do these updated plans. So last year, Rosebud was completed in 2021, Rosebud was completed in 2022. Muirfield was completed. And so this allows us a plan for infrastructure upgrades that are required for these communities. So Muirfield was completed. Then the administration will be reviewing that and then putting the plan together for capital projects in 2024 to start rolling out those projects that are required for that community. For the Rosebud streetlights, Fortis is currently proceeding with the design based on a few lighting options to provide a rough estimate for better streetlight coverage in Rosebud. So this information will be presented to the community association so they can have a better understanding of the impacts of design costs and the additional cost as we discuss the potential improvements with the community. Goldfinch, so the county did issue an RFP for raw water supply for the Goldfinch industrial area. The proposals have actually been received back now to the county, and we're reviewing those, and that's for engineering design for raw water supply into Goldfinch. On page 88, under land, so the Range Road 205 capital project that was completed in 2022. That's been finalized. The landowner payments and final disturbance crop losses have been finalized where as required for that project. The Muirfield lot sales, so that's a summary. As you can see, most of those lots have been sold now. There are 2 as of writing the report that remain. I'm not sure if they still remain today, but I believe they are. On page 89, under Agriculture and Environment, our Ag Services Officer and Subforeman completed Form 7 training on November 24th. They also attended the in-service training for ASB December 5th to 9th. A few statistics: 60 grain bags have been rolled since November 15th until the this report was written, and total to date was 222 grain bags for the year. Since November 1st, we've had 18 ALICE projects approved, 3 producer funding projects have been approved, and 5 watershed resiliency and restoration programs have been approved. And then there's a map on page 89 at the bottom that shows the offsite watering systems funded since 2021. And lastly, on page 90 is just a schedule of events related to agriculture in the community, with the dates and times and locations that those events are being offered. As council knows, at the end of the report, there are more detailed lists of the various activities being completed by the department. So this last one for 2022 is kind of a snapshot of what happened in 2022. The next one, report in February for January, will show the updated list capital projects for 2023 as approved by council. And that's my report, and I'm here for any questions.
Any questions regarding transportation and agriculture?
Just one question on the snow fence installation. Are we almost done that?
Through the chair, the snow fence is about 85% complete. We have a couple greater beats remaining, about 50% of Cars Land area, Lyalta area, 2 or 3 spots around Gleason, and maybe a half dozen spots around Dowlam. So we anticipate about 6 days we'll be finished, and crews are working on it today. So
Thank you.
Any other questions?
And I just want to say a heartfelt thank you to the crews that were out before Christmas time, around Christmas time. I can't imagine how it was like a perfect storm of cold weather and blowing and drifting. And I know in our area there was huge drifts that were causing lots of problems. And I appreciate the crews working so hard to clear that and get people going where they needed to go. So I just wanted to say I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I would definitely echo that deep gratitude for the commitment of all the teams that were keeping the roads clear and putting all their effort in. It was definitely appreciated by residents as well.
Yeah, for my division, I'd say thank you to the operations crews. It was, I expected a lot more phone calls, and by the time I even thought about calling something, it was already dealt with. And including recently, intersections have been, the greater blades go over it and rip them up. And let me tell you, I drive for a living, and there's a lot of municipalities that could learn something from us. And thank God for salt.
Any other questions for transportation and agriculture? If not, a motion to accept.
Yeah, I'd just like.
Please go ahead,
I'd
Councillor
just like
Kester.
to thank the crews. I'd like to thank the crews for all the work they did to help my ratepayers out. Some of them were snowed in for 5 days or more. The wind was, what was plowed out one day was snowed in by the morning of the next day. The wind was constant. So thanks for that. And just a question. I'm getting few questions from my ratepayers. We did away with the grader beat, and they're just wondering if that impacted the service, or should we be looking back and restore that grader beat? The washboards with hauling again, the hilltops, intersections were bad last year. And I'm just wondering if we should be looking at reinstating that grader beat. I'd just like to have staff's assessment of it.
Through the chair, when we did remove the grader beat a few years ago, the grading schedule did extend by, on average, about 3 to 4 days per division, I believe. And as far as the snow clearing, it's added about a half a day to a day, depending on the division. Overall, on average, those divisions increased by, I believe, I want to say close to 20 miles apiece. So it definitely has impacted service, like response times. But as far as bringing it back, that would be something we'd have to definitely take away and review and bring back for council discussion.
Thank you.
I'd be opening to bring a discussion back that we add that greater beat again. I'll make that a motion. I'll just make a motion that staff prepare a report and with the idea of the differences of what this greater beat has cost the county. Possible reinstatement.
So Councillor Kester has moved for administration to bring a report back with information regarding the change in the grader beat. Any questions? Is that enough information for administration? Any questions or discussion?
Also like to add, if we could, to look at what roads we've improved that no longer need grading, because I know in my division there's a few that are been taken off miles for MRO and whatnot, so that should be in there as well.
Any other questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We also need a motion to accept the Transportation and Agriculture Department report as information.
I will so move.
Councillor Reichert has moved. Any further questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We will move to our 10 a.m. appointment. I apologize. Yes, we're going to take a 5-minute break. My apologies. We will reconvene at 10:15.
You have been muted. To unmute yourself, press the star key twice.
Good morning. We'll call the meeting back to order. We have representatives from the Strathmore RCMP detachment joining us this morning. Welcome. Oh, can you just hit the button on your microphone? Thank you.
There, can everyone hear me now?
Absolutely.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for offering the opportunity to appear before you again to provide you an update on our policing services for the rural areas of Strathmore detachment, more specifically Wheatland County. For the duration of this presentation, my comments have been made through the CIO to the chair and the rest of council. Going through our priorities, first of our priorities for or our initiatives for this year in Q2. We were continuing with our ongoing programs, most notably our habitual offender management program throughout this quarter or Q2, which covers the months of July, August, and September. There were 13 habitual offenders and properties that we were monitoring throughout our detachment area. And collectively, our members documented 153 checks. Particularly relating to Wheatland County, there was one particular person who was identified for numerous property checks, was found to be not in compliance, and a warrant was issued. The person and the subject was arrested in Olds, but also while on the property conducting a check, there were a number of stolen vehicles and travel trailers that were found and recovered. So it resulted in a search warrant that was executed in the recovery of a significant value of property or of trailers and vehicles off of that property that were returned to their owners. Another offender that was placed in our area that was bound by a conditional sentence order on over 40 criminal code offenses. During a check, they were found with 2 stolen vehicles. They were arrested. Unfortunately, they were later released during a bail hearing. However, our members continued with their monitoring efforts and ended up locating them again when they returned to Strathmore for a probation appointment and found them another stolen vehicle. So again, another vehicle recovered. And of course, this just shows the results and the fruits that come from our strategic focus on our habitual offenders, and that we'll continue to monitor it to ensure that we're encouraging them to return to a law-abiding lifestyle. But however, if those who choose not to, hopefully we're in a position where we can again hold them accountable as much as possible and recover and return property to those who have had it taken from them. Our other programs remain in effect, but I'll go through the more of the highlights of the report for you, as I'm sure that everyone's had a chance to read through it, and to leave more opportunity for questions, as I'm sure there may be some with respect to some of our operations in the area. Our business outreach program, we're piloting this mainly within Rocky View County at Wrangler Park, as well as within the town of Strathmore, to identify businesses, to try and identify key holders, owners, determine whether or not video surveillance is available. Is it effective? Does it work? Who knows how to use it? Can we obtain the video surveillance from those properties if necessary? And to do a walkthrough and assessment to see what we can do to target harden it, if you will, to ensure that we're making it those properties a little more difficult to break into, but less desirable as a target with respect to potential property crimes. Now, this is leading to a potential capture program type of project to solicit interest and viability of the program within our area. Now, as was rolled out in Chestermere during my tenure there, the capture program is simply a third-party site that we set up where residents can set up their own account at their own discretion. They can provide their information, including their location, do they have video surveillance, what views does it have, and should the person or resident decide not to participate in the program anymore, they can choose to leave it. The police can't live monitor through their cameras, but on the back end, when our members are investigating offenses or potential property crimes from their vehicles, they can pop up a map that populates who has video surveillance in the area. It's got the person's contact information, and we can call them. And with the increasing levels of technology these days, we've had people from work from their cell phone that can send us video surveillance in real time, and it's been very effective. So this is another way that we can gauge from businesses and residents to see whether or not this is a program that could be viable for our area, both in the town of Strathmore and our surrounding rural areas. What I can say with the more increasingly cost-effective forms of video surveillance, we have had some successes most recently in the past where we've been able to catch offenders in the act. Our members have been able to respond when a person receives a notification at work that there's motion in their house. They can see on their cameras that someone's there. They can give us a call quite quickly, and our members can respond immediately to apprehend those offenders. And we've had one media release that I sent out last month, and There's another matter that in Wheatland County, I believe that our members were able to respond right away and catch some offenders in the Quonset. So timely reporting suspicious activity by our residents has been very helpful as far as dealing with some of our rural property crimes. Our members continue with hotspot patrols. All in all, as far as our property crime goals for this year with respect to theft of motor vehicles, theft from motor vehicles, break and enters through Q2, through Wheatland County, we are either at or below our historical norms. So as compared to Q2 last year, we saw a reduction and over a 4-year average. So the graphics that I have before you, as noted in the last time I was here before council, rather than focusing on our comparisons to last year, we can acknowledge that through COVID, through 2020 and 2021, we had artificially low crime numbers for various reasons. I think it's more reasonable to take a look at where historical 4-year crime averages are to see where we are. Now, no level of crime, in my opinion, is acceptable. However, if we're taking a look at where are we with respect to how we're doing, if we take a look at our historical averages, we are either at our averages or below, and that's where I've decided to use those graphics before you in the reporting, just to give you an idea of where we are. With respect to our theft of vehicles, most of them within Wheatland County were crimes of opportunity, but I can tell you all the vehicles that were stolen in Q2 were returned to their owners. And in one in particular was recovered in Glacian, and 2 suspects were identified and charged in relation to those thefts. With respect to road safety, we've again been continuing along with our visibility and enforcement efforts or road safety efforts. Throughout the area, we were able to conduct 12 documented check stops for a total of 742 vehicles checked. Out of that, 3 impaired immediate roadside suspensions were issued, and 2 other suspensions were issued during those efforts. We are still working on an enhanced road safety initiative, but again, I don't have any more progress to report, at least at this point in time, and hopefully through Q3 and Q4, I'll have more to update you on. When we look at our collision comparisons, so the metrics we're using as far as our reportable collisions and injury collisions, we're still within the historical norms and ranges. So as far as reportable collisions are concerned, we're still down from last year, and from our 4-year historical averages, we're still down. Q2, we saw a slight increase by 2 injury collisions in Q2, but again, we're still below our historical norms for injury collisions for Q2 as far as looking at 4-year averages. Just over in Wheatland County, we're as a result of wildlife strikes. But otherwise, some of the other causes that we're seeing in these collisions are improper backing, turning, dealing with their driver inattentiveness, following too closely, or driving too closely to the shoulders. We had some detours that happened with some, grass fires throughout the summer where we had some commercial vehicle traffic taking a bit of a too sharp of a turn and end up rolling on the shoulders. That's happened, but it's more driver inattentiveness and user error that we're seeing. Our community engagement remains high throughout Q2. We were able to do some school visits. However, we were pretty limited to the back to school month in September, being the summer break. However, throughout the summer, our members were able to attend a number of events through Wheatland County, that being the Rockiford Rodeo, as well as the parade, and as well as in standard for their parade as well. Other community engagement events, we were able to participate in a number of, being September 30th, our National Truth and Reconciliation Day. We attended a number of events within the town of Strathmore, who graciously hosted a morning of awareness and events at the Civic Center, and then into the afternoon in part of our letter of understanding with Siksika Nation, the RCMP, and the town of Strathmore for more, progress towards reconciliation with our Indigenous partners and residents. We facilitated, we helped to host a blanket ceremony for our staff, as well as some town staff as well, including members of Siksika Nation in that blanket ceremony. And again, it was an educational activity for all of those who had attended. In addition, we were able to have our eagle feather blessed as part of an eagle feather blessing ceremony. Now, all detachments in Alberta, through Alberta RCMP, have an eagle feather at the detachment, and what the eagle feather is to signify is part of an animal, an eagle that flies closest to the Creator, which is a sacred animal for our Indigenous communities. So rather than swearing on a Bible or taking a solemn oath or affirmation, our Indigenous clients can choose to swear on the eagle feather, which holds the same effect and is as binding as swearing an oath or affirmation before the courts. So during the ceremony, we were able to have the feather blessed, and it's an annual ceremony that should be carried out to ensure that the eagle feather is pure and people can swear their oaths on them. Beyond that, we remain very active as far as our numbers with our calls for service. We can see that Wheatland County is, as of September, we're starting to match the calls we were having in Rocky View County as well. But those numbers are there before you. There's a bit of an update with respect to our other programs, such as the Watch Clerk program. We have all of our positions filled at this point in time. We have one of the 3 vacancies. One of the persons that came to us was a clerk that had previous time within Drumheller Detachment. It took them a bit of a quick refresher to get her up and running. And we have 2 new staff that live in the area that we currently have under training at this point in time, and they'll be up and fully functional within, fully working with their watches within the next 6 to 8 weeks. Right now they're in training, but I can tell you that despite some of the resourcing pressures we've had over the past couple of months, that the presence of those watch clerks have been more than worth their weight in gold. And I remain appreciative of the support from our counties and the contributions to community safety in our area in that program. With the complexity of some of the issues that we're dealing with, for instance, we're seeing more and more habitual offenders that we're finding in vehicles. We're apprehending that are bound by multiple release orders, multiple probation orders or condition orders with multiple offenses, could be 10, 15, 20 or plus more charges, new charges to be laid. And that does take a lot of time, for a member to complete that on their own. Our watch clerks have been instrumental, given the complexity of some of these investigations, to take that off of their hands, to seek out these release documents, to lay the information, prepare the bail packages and some of the disclosures for them, which has really maximized their time on the road and enhanced their ability to be well placed and to detect, deter, and apprehend the criminal element should they surface in our area. So we've had some very good successes over the past little while. I can speak for even just this past weekend, we had over 3 spike belt deployments within our area in our Western Territory in the Rocky View area, where we frequently see spillover from the city of Calgary. So again, we've had a lot of pressure placed on our resources, but those watch clerks have been very valuable for us. And again, I can't express my thanks enough to our municipal stakeholders for funding this program for us. That's my report. I'm open to any questions, should there be any.
Any questions for Staff Sergeant Wilgosh?
I just have one regarding the watch clerk. And so right now, or prior to having these staffed, you had some people on light duties or that kind of thing, sort of filling that role in the interim. What will they end up doing? Like, by filling the watch clerk, are we taking away from an opportunity for a member to continue to provide service?
So the members that we have on light duties right now, I've been referring to them as our callback unit. And for those of you who may not be aware, the RCMP in Alberta has a callback unit staffed with members that can handle after hours, the lower priority calls like priority 4 and priority 3 calls that don't necessarily need a member to attend right away. So I've been having them on a local basis answering, dealing with front counter complaints, taking statements to the front counter, handling tasks, whether it be phone calls or interviewing witnesses on the other members' files that they can do from the office, or at least make these appointments to do in person. We still have 2 watch clerks that are, the beginning of training because they haven't worked in a policing environment before, so they require formalized training to get access to our databases. So in the interim, they're still filling some of that role. They're assisting with some of the training with our watch clerks. We have them planned to shadow with them during a number of shifts to really enhance the training as far as what members, when they're responding calls for service, what they're going to want to know, what database checks that need to be conducted, again, to get them up to speed. But otherwise, they're still fully tasked, taking some of the investigative tasks from our frontline members off their hands. So they can do that in the background, and they can focus on the tasks that need to be done with boots on the ground, so to speak. So again, the lower priority stuff at the front counter, taking statements, some of these odd tasks that keep our members on the road, they're still able to do their part and really enhance our members' ability to be on the road rather than tied up on their regular files.
Thank you. Thank you.
I want to thank you for the report. And as I listen to you talk, I understand why policing is a young man's game, because when I hear multiple bail infractions, I'm going, after one, there shouldn't be another one, right? But our society doesn't believe that. So thank you for the work. Thank you for the report.
I don't know if it's our society necessarily, but yeah, something. Any other questions? I will echo Councillor Eichert's thanks. The way you present the data is very easy to understand and makes it very easy to assess trends and to see what's going on. So we appreciate all of the officers' efforts in Wheatland County. So please pass that on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perhaps a motion to accept the report as information.
Also move.
Thank you, Councillor Laprise. Any questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move to agenda item 5.1, correspondence. Thank you. We do have, so there's the letter from Wheatland Wind, which I think we could just accept for information. There is a letter from Rocky View County regarding a request for consideration for joint advocacy for improved solar farm governance. And so if we could have some discussion and perhaps provide a response to that. As well, Municipal Affairs has extended an invitation to request a meeting at the RMA Spring Convention and a request for discussion topics if we're to request that meeting. And then as well, there was the inclusion of the correspondence from the RCMP regarding the previous meeting at the RMA Fall Convention. So perhaps first, if we could start with the Rocky View County correspondence. I will share we had some discussion regarding this request at the district directors meeting on Friday in Three Hills. There was a lot of good discussion and conversation. Rocky View did indicate that they have been in communication with RMA because of course we have the new resolutions that came forward at the Fall Convention that were supported and RMA has been actively advocating on those issues. This would be something that would be done in coordination and collaboration with RMA, but in addition to that, in terms of paid advocacy. At times, RMA does utilize the services of consultants where we don't necessarily have internal support or internal capacity, I should say, often specific to a project, whether it's data collection or writing a more fulsome report, that type of thing. Obviously, we do as much as possible in-house and with our own team. But this would be something that would be outside of RMA. And in addition, there was also a question whether this is something that should be brought forward to the broader member base of all rural municipalities in Alberta. Rocky View County did indicate that they had forwarded this to, I believe, all municipalities in District 2 as well as District 1. So our colleagues in the South District. I think that was the majority. There was definitely discussion around just the return on investment of sort of a paid lobbyist. The only context I can think of, we did collaborate with Rocky View and Foothills with a lobbyist regarding the Growth Management Board a few years ago. I believe that was a lobbyist, if I recall correctly. So that's just some context, and I'll open the floor to discussion.
Just a question, like, I would assume that Vulcan County would be very, in fact, they should probably be proposing something, or they have something, because they have an awful lot of, I mean, they're I would assume that they've sort of got the risk management of these things 20 years from now, what's going to be done on these. So I'm all for this. I believe that we're seeing what problems with the orphan wells is happening. And I believe this is going to be way more of a problem because, I mean, we're dealing with orphan wells that are 50, 60 years old.
When I read this, I did wonder why it wasn't going to RMA, or and if that's not the right place for it. I don't know. So they're trying to fast track it. Is that kind of like RMA has a number of advocacy issues in front of it. So is that the intent, is to circumvent that sort of and try and get action sooner? I don't know. We belong to RMA for a reason, and this is sort of one of them. I'm not sure.
I think not necessarily fast track or circumvent, but just to add to. So in addition to put some investment into that collective, concentrated professional lobbying, if you will. And I definitely have mixed feelings on this. I do think that there is validity in looking at something like this collectively versus just like one municipality, because obviously the more voices that you add, the more strength to the position. This is certainly something that RMA, the board, and Paul specifically have been strongly advocating for. I think it's really coming to the forefront. Rocky View, and we did hear from several other mayors and reeves at the directors meeting on Friday, where large projects are coming into sort of best class soil, highly productive agricultural land that's being taken out. Lots of discussion around the long-term impacts to that, even beyond, of course, the reclamation issues, but even beyond that, to returning that agricultural land back to production. President McLaughlin has referenced issues with like sterilization of this, potential sterilization of the soil and mixing of soil layers as the screw piles or pile drives are being utilized during the installation process. Issues like that, that I think from a rural municipal perspective is very concerning. And yeah, just along the lines of what Councillor Eichert was saying around lessons learned from orphan oil and gas wells. And we do have the resolutions, and RMA will be strongly advocating on this. We're certainly hearing it from multiple members across Alberta. The pressure's increasing. We're definitely seeing that in Wheatland as well. So then I guess it's just a question of, I know we're focused on being very fiscally prudent and whether we anticipate that we would see the return on investment for paid advocacy like this. Deputy Reeve Clausen.
I mean, I'm glad that other municipalities have similar views to ours on this. However, with the monies, when you're putting public money out there, what exactly are you that they're hiring? I don't know any, like, we need more information to make that decision. What are the goals? What is the pre-approach? That kind of thing. And then you can judge whether it's cost effective right now to just blanket say, yeah, we'll support it at a monetary value. I'm not there yet. I don't know how successful RMA is going to be. Usually, you know, it can be, it can't be. This is another approach, and it's hard to judge the value there. So I definitely support the idea, but as far as monetary funds right at this time, I don't have enough information to do that.
I should have shared this as well. Rocky View did commit. There was a few questions that arose on Friday, and Rocky View County did commit to bringing forward some more information. So one thing that we could do is just accept this as information for today, and then as Rocky View provides more information, or if RMA provides any further information, if this is something that is going to be extended to more municipalities in the province, that type of thing. When I started thinking about it, if all 69 municipalities committed $10,000, you're at $690,000 of advocacy. So I think some further information. One thing that did arise is perhaps there could be sort of a goal budget, and then the contributions would be scaled depending on how many people commit. So you could determine sort of what an appropriate level would be. And then it's a little bit of a chicken and egg. You still wouldn't know exactly what the ask would be until you would know how many municipalities were participating. But perhaps we want to just accept for information. With regard to the question regarding Vulcan, the last time I spoke with Reeve Schneider about it, their council had not considered the request yet, but that was last week. So but they were definitely included in the circulation.
I agree with that suggestion. I agree with Deputy Reeve Clausen as well that, you know, just to know what exactly you'd get from a report, who is the consultant and how, and what would be the end, what would you say, okay, that was successful. But it does align with our strategic plan and our goals for the county. So, you know, it is a good idea. I would like more details. So I think that's a good suggestion.
Oh, go ahead.
I think. Hello.
Yep, please go ahead, Councillor Kester.
We belong to the RMA, and I believe this is a province-wide thing. I think our efforts should be directed at stronger support from the RMA. I don't know how a handful of counties with their own lobbyists would make it more better than having the whole province behind trying to resolve this problem through the RMA. I think the RMA has a lot of advocacy potential, and the province listens to them because it's the membership of the whole province, not just one section. So I would be more in favor of pushing the RMA to add a little bit, put it higher priority. I think we would get better mileage that way. So with saying that, I would move that we accept this letter from Rocky View as information.
Thanks, Deputy Reeve Clausen.
Yeah, and you know, looking at this and thinking if the provincial and federal governments would take the time beforehand and discuss this with municipalities, we wouldn't have to do this. I mean, I've seen this how many times, and we've seen it in our lifetimes, many times these ideals come forward without public engagement. And we're chasing to represent the people that it actually affects and our municipality and our planning. Maybe one day they'll learn and we wouldn't have to chase this stuff. But it's really quite sad that we could have had this discussion 5-10 years ago. And maybe it wasn't listening to, but I mean, just chasing our tails.
It's been good discussion. Just for further context as well, through discussion on Friday, we did decide that we would invite Mr. Darcy Allen from the Farmers Advocate Office, if he's available to join us at our District 2 meeting in the MD of Acadia. He does a lot of work with landowners regarding renewable energy and advocacy. And then we also discovered on Friday that the Farmers Advocate Office has an existing resource for landowners. So I'll circulate that to council following the meeting today. And then I don't know if there would be council support, but we could ask administration to share that, whether it be through the county connector, the digital newsletter, or through social media, because we were actually talking about collaborating with the Farmers Advocate Office to develop a policy, and then we discovered that they already have one. So for me, that just speaks to perhaps an awareness issue that the resource is there. I believe Mr. Allen is also joining the surface rights group at a meeting this week. So he's very active in that space and very knowledgeable, and people spoke very highly of the work that he does in this realm. So I will circulate that after council. And we have a motion on the floor to accept the letter for information, but perhaps following that, we could contemplate a motion to also share that resource so that our agricultural producers can have access to that, or increased access and awareness. Any other questions or discussion on the Rocky View County request? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. And we'll ensure that any further information is brought forward to council. There was also the Minister of Municipal Affairs, Honorable Rebecca Schultz, inquiring if we would like to request a meeting. I don't know if anybody has any pressing issues with municipal affairs that you would like to bring forward.
I had a couple of ideas. I wondered if we not, and this is just a discussion point to have with her, but about the intermunicipal agreements that we need to make, and whether she's contemplating putting any parameters around those. And then I also wondered if we wanted to talk to her about the activities of the Wheatland Surface Rights Group, and just whether she's aware of the issues that they're having and bringing it to her attention, I guess.
I believe that anytime we can meet the municipal affairs minister, we should make that time. So, and then we can, I think we should try to get the meeting, and then there are very good ideas about what this meeting should be about.
I agree. The points that Councillor Priest brought up are excellent, and definitely points that we should get some, especially on the working with municipalities. There need to be some stronger guidelines and some limits, and I think we've seen that province-wide. So I think that'd be good.
Sounds good. Perhaps a motion to direct administration to request a meeting highlighting the issues of intermunicipal agreements and just to share information on behalf of our surface rights advocacy group. And then if any further ideas are, just trying to recall, oh, the deadline is the 13th. So perhaps we could include those issues. And then if anyone has any ideas of any other issues, we could bring them forward to our next council meeting and just send those an addendum to the request for the meeting.
The only other thought I had was this advocacy for the rural funding for the non-residential infrastructure. I mean, we could talk to her about that as well.
Yep, absolutely. Any other discussion items that we would like to include in our request? Somebody prepared to make a motion?
Also moved.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion?
Big eyes around here.
Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. And then if we could also have a motion to accept the remaining items as information.
I will so move. I have one question regarding the Wheatland West. I think that's what it is now. We are now receiving tax funds for that. Like we're receiving taxation from that operation.
The Wheatland Wind.
Oh, no, we're not. So actually I had a discussion with our tax assessor about that this week. And we were kind of chatting about just the actual treatment of that taxation. And so they're a DIP property, I think, and the way their assessment works is that their operational date must be functional as of November 1st, just the way that type of property works. And so this year we're not receiving taxation funding for it. So 2023 we will not be, but in 2024 we will be. And I believe the version that I understood, and that's from assessment coming into more terms that I would understand, is that it's just due to the commissioning of the entire facility, if that makes sense.
So they run a full year without paying any taxation because they're in operation now, as I understand.
That I can confirm, but I think the argument that they can rely on to other bodies of legislation is that it's not fully operational yet.
Okay, interesting.
Any other questions or discussion regarding the correspondence? If not, you already moved to accept the correspondences. Oh, no, you just had a question. We need a motion to accept it.
I will make that motion that we accept it as correspondence as information.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion? Is any councillor opposed? Motion is carried. That brings us to the conclusion of our agenda, and our meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.